Thanks for joining me here today for this review of the film Vice. Now, I got to see this a little bit early in the UK because the film is the Odeon Screen Unseen that was shown on Monday. And so got to see it about 10-11 days early, which is fantastic. So it was really on my list of things I wanted to watch in the new year. The film is directed by Adam McKay and it stars Christian Bale. You have Steve Carell, Amy Adams, Jesse Plemons. And you also have the likes of Sam Rockwell, who is playing George W. Bush. And it's the story of Vice President Dick Cheney, his kind of rise through politics, initially under the Nixon administration, through various other iterations of US politics, to CEO of Halliburton, and ultimately his position as Vice President of the United States of America. So if you know anything about Adam McKay, he directed The Big Short. The Big Short was one of my favourite films from a couple of years ago. It tried to do that education on the subject of really big, complicated financial issues and the way that the financial crash happened. It tried to do that education in an interesting and open way that would engage people and would help people to understand the material, which is a very difficult thing to do. It's obviously not easy to be able to kind of put this together and to keep people interested about a subject like the global financial crash. Yes, it affected everyone to a greater or lesser extent, but it's not something that kind of is a very easy subject to get your head around. And he's kind of done it again here with this subject of Dick Cheney and power, the pursuit of power, sometimes the abuse of power, in what is actually a very funny film. I love this film. Clearly this film is kind of aimed at people like me. I have a certain sort of leftish liberal mentality about me that sympathise very much with the ideas that they were promoting in the film. It's not necessarily Republican versus Democrat or conservative versus liberal, because they went to great lengths to show various different people in the film who you would think of as being, a certain type of person, like Hillary Clinton, for example, very strong on the Democratic side. But they show aspects of her, again, sort of playing this game of power and how her approach to certain things, the way she voted or the speeches she gave are, somewhat in alignment with the general story that was told at the time. Now, the majority of this is, like I said, talking about Dick Cheney, it's talking about his rise to power. It's like a sort of comedy biography, using a lot of artistic license to plug very, very clear gaps in our knowledge of who Dick Cheney is and about what happened in the room on certain occasions. And the film was absolutely honest about that. The first thing they said is, it's based on a true story, but it's about as accurate as you could possibly be when you're dealing with someone who is as private and as closely guarded about their privacy as Dick Cheney is. And I thought that was really good to see them at least acknowledge that. They did a number of things in the film that reminded you that this is not verbatim. This is a dramatization, and it's clearly taking inspiration. We don't know how certain things were done. There's a specific section during the film where there's a conversation between Dick Cheney and Lynn Cheney. They're in bed together, and the film references the fact that we don't know what happened. We don't know what happened in this moment. And it certainly wouldn't be anything like a Shakespearean speech between two people. And then they go on to do a Shakespearean speech. I think they actually lift a direct section of text from Shakespeare. And it's a conversation, I think, maybe from Richard III, where they lift a section of text about the pursuit of power. And they have the characters say that text. So rather than make up the words, they've simply taken a classical piece of dialogue from a Shakespearean play, and they've played that instead. And it's a very good reminder that this is a dramatization. We don't know what happened. There's speculation here. There's, we're surmising about what might have happened in these closely guarded, secretive moments. And I thought that was really good, because they are reaching for comedic points. They are trying to to address a subject from quite a very specific angle, and they are pursuing this from the viewpoint of we are all at the whim of the people in power. We kind of want to live our lives, we want to do our lives. We don't want to think about the complicated issues. We don't want to think about who's taking stuff from us. We don't want to get into all the details of how stuff happens, because we want to enjoy our lives. We want to have fun. We want to get on with stuff. But if you're not watching these people, if you're not keeping an eye on things, and if you're not active into this, then you'll be taken advantage of. And a lot of it is about how, to a certain extent, the American population is taken advantage of by the people in power. And it's not necessarily Democrat or Republican. It is simply a case of the haves and the have-nots, the people who wield power and the people who don't. And if you're not the person wielding power, you're at the whim and you're at the mercy of the person who does. And that is essentially the point. They cover the whole of Dick Cheney's early life. They cover how he sort of came to power, how he rose to prominence within the Republican Party. And they also do a certain couple of things to kind of paint him in a more positive light. Obviously, the subject of Dick Cheney's life is in the public domain, so there are things that people know about him. If you look him up in the news media, you'll know, for example, that he has a daughter who is gay. And that's referenced in the film. It's specifically referenced as almost a positive of Dick Cheney and how he did not abandoned, let's say, the principles of his love for his daughter because he refused to campaign on issues of, for example, gay marriage in the South. Had no problem being part of a party that was openly campaigning. No problem being part of a campaign that was openly campaigning in the South against gay marriage, but wouldn't personally partake in it. So it's sort of that line between true character and true moral strength and let's say a desire to do the right thing versus the desire to not do something that would potentially destroy your career or destroy your family. So wielding power up to the point where it might hurt you. Essentially, that's it. Willingness to do any of that up to the point where it might affect you and your life. There's a couple of things which I won't spoil in the film, which are related to little choices they make. Wonderful, fun, quirky little moments where, for example, they imply the film's ending already, and it isn't, but you'll see that when you get to it. And it's really fun. It's a great, great, fun film, and at the same time incredibly depressing to watch how people are potentially manipulated, to hear how phrases are created to make certain things more scary or less scary, to create the willpower in the majority of the people to vote in a certain way. And then by that voting to give power to the people who created the myth in the first place. Totally off topic, but they talk about, for example, the creation of terms like climate change instead of global warming. And again, I have no way of knowing if this is true or not, but the implication is that global warming is scary to people and climate change is less scary. So we'll call it climate change because it's less scary and it will allow us to continue to do the things we want to do in terms of profitability. And I thought that was interesting. It's clearly playing to me as an audience member. It's something that I would find funny, and yet also a bit depressing at the same time. Very much as I did at the end of The Big Short. Again, funny to see how they handle it. Great to see it explained. Depressing to see what people can get away with in power, and the degree to which they will be placed in positions of power by the likes of us, and we are all, to some extent complicit in this, who allow them to wield that power. Ultimately, they only wield the power that is given to them by the people that elect them or by the people who vote for their party. You don't have the power unless it's given to you. And yet, we continue to give it to them. Anyway, I love the film. I thought it was fantastic. I'm going to give this film an 8 out of 10. It's a great film, well worth watching. It's sort of stimulating. It's great to get this little look behind the scenes. Very much conscious that we don't know this is true. It's a lot of supposition. It could be 100% accurate. It could be 30% accurate. The basic facts, as they're explained, are true. They align with what I know about the facts and history. But those private conversations, those private moments, how stuff transpired, how people came to get the roles that they got, for example, a lot of that is going to be quite different. And I like it. It's a great way to look at this, and I like the way that they acknowledge that. They don't try and pass it off as this is what happened. It's not that this is what happened. It's not that Oliver Stone thing where Oliver Stone has a viewpoint and he comes out and says, that's what happened. Adam McKay does a really good comedic job of letting you know that we're taking a guess. What you can't dispute are the facts of someone's life, the things we know happened to them, the timeline, the events. You can't dispute the events, but you can dispute how people arrived at those events. And they at least make that clear. Anyway, have you seen it? What are your thoughts about it? Please do let me know in the comment section down below. Look forward to hearing from everyone there on this subject, on this film. Yeah, if there's any other comments or you need to get hold of me for any other purposes, you can do so through my email address, which is julietteisnoir@gmail.com, or my website, julietteisnoir.uk. Thanks for watching this video here today. Feel free to like, share and subscribe, and I look forward to talking to you again on the next video. Thanks so much, and bye! Bye!